All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming today to attend our admission and financial aid presentation for our full-time graduate programs here at Elmhurst University. My name is Bill Smith. I am the Director for Enrollment Operations and Graduate Admissions here at Elmhurst University. I am a double alum, completing my undergrad back in the aughts there in 2004 and completing my MBA in 2020. So love this place and been working here for 12 years now as well. And also we have Carrie Bohan with us. She's our Senior Assistant Director of Graduate Admission and also nurse as well too. Hi, Carrie.
Hi, thanks everybody for joining us today. I'm really excited that you are all here and can't wait to give you a lot of great information.
All right. Carrie, should we go ahead and get started?
I think so.
All right, let's do it. All right. Before we get into it, I just want to let you know that Elmhurst University does have many graduate programs outside of our full-time healthcare programs that many of you are here for today. But we also have a big presence in our MBA program, industrial organizational psychology, project management, supply chain, executive coaching, technology, and education. So we run the full gambit here. And the names that you see there are the program directors that are assigned specifically for each program. And you will be working directly with those specific program directors throughout your time here. So they are invested in you and your success here at Elmhurst. All right, Kier, kick it off with the application process here.
Yes, so if you are applying to CSD, MEMP, or occupational therapy, you are going to be using one of the CAS application options. So CSD CAS, MEMP CAS, or nursing CAS, or OT CAS. We have all three of those applications currently open, and they will be closing for the communication sciences and disorders. That will be closing on January 15th. For nursing, it will be closing on March 1st. And for OT, it will be closing on February 15th. It will reopen again in July for OT and CSD for the following intake year. And for MEMP, it will open on September 1st next year as well.
Yeah, and one other thing to note too is you do need to apply directly through these websites here, not through our graduate admissions application, because these are specific to each program there.
If you are a nursing student and you are looking for our online program, we can connect you directly with the team who works with our online admissions as well. Okay, for the full-time programs, like Bill was saying, all of your materials are going to go directly into your CAS application. So you don't need to send anything to us. Everything will be pulled down from there. Once your application is completed and verified by CAS, we'll be able to look at that for review to send to our admissions committees. So all your transcripts will get sent directly from your school to CAS. If you have an international transcript, you will need a course-by-course evaluation, and that too will get sent from your evaluator directly to CAS. You're going to write your personal statement, your 3 letters of recommendation. You're going to put the names and email addresses of those recommenders into the CAS system. CAS will send it out directly to that contact, and then their response will come back directly into CAS as well. You're then able to upload any additional documentations that you need. So your resume, if you're occupational therapy and you're doing your observation hours, you can upload those in your additional materials files. And then once they get all those materials, you are able to get that application process. And like I said, once it gets into a verified status, that's when we're able to look at it for review for your admission to our program. If you've got questions as you're going through that process, you can always reach out to me. I always know that all of the CAS customer service are really, really phenomenal. So anytime I've ever reached out to them with any questions, they have wonderful service with people that answer the phone and will also help work with you on any questions you have. Okay, so once you have your application completed and we've looked at it, some of our programs will require an interview. So your application will be reviewed for interview. Once that's done and you've received your admission decision, and we are inviting you to join our program for our CAS applications, you'll need a $500 tuition deposit. That deposit's going to guarantee your spot in that cohort. That money is a deposit, so it will be applied towards your tuition. But if you choose to not attend the program, it's non-refundable. For OT, you're going to, and nursing, you're going to get your admission decision, and that $500 deposit needs to be made within 2 weeks of your admission decision. After that 2 weeks, your invitation to join our program, that admission decision will actually expire. They're competitive programs, and in order to be fair, because there's such limited placements in those programs, that's why we give you those 2 weeks to make that decision. And then after that, like we said, those admission decisions will expire. For CSD, it's a little different since your application will close on January 15th. All the applications are then reviewed at the same time. Admission decisions are going to be released at the end of February, the beginning of March. And then you'll have until March 27th to make that deposit. That deposit will secure that spot in the cohort as well. You can make it right away, or you can wait till March 27th, but after that time, admission will be based on space availability in the cohort. Once you're deposited and you've got that spot locked in, then after that, in April, we'll be opening up to register for your classes. You are guaranteed a spot in all of the classes for the healthcare programs. We open up the number of slots in the class based on the number of students in the cohort. So it's not like when you're an undergrad and you're sometimes trying to get into a class, but that section is full. You are going to get your class regardless of when, what day you register, because we are going to make sure that you have a spot in those classes. After that, was there a question? Oh, I thought I heard somebody. Sorry. After that, once you register for classes, your financial aid and payment options will become available to you. We can always do a cost payment analysis. I'm happy to do that for anybody at any time. Throughout the process, you don't have to wait until after your deposit. I could do it ahead of time too, with kind of anticipated idea of what your cost would look like. You'll have an orientation. For CSD, the orientation is either virtual or on campus, but for OT and MEMP, there will be mandatory orientations in August. OT is 1 day and MEMP is 2 days. And as soon as we get those dates, we share them with you right away. And then at the end of August, you'll be starting classes for OT and MEMP. CSD, we're going to be starting right away. So you are going to be rolling out your first class in June. So even though it technically says it's a fall start, you're going to take 2 classes in the summer starting in June, but you won't pay for your program until the fall. So that is why it's kind of technically listed as a fall program, because you'll pay fall, spring for all 4 programs. So you'll be taking the classes in June, but your payment will be due for the semester that fall because everything is rolled into that.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Carrie. Yeah, so your summer tuition is rolled into that fall tuition, so no separate billing for that. I do want to go back to number 3 real quickly here. You can review your financial aid prior to you registering for your classes there. If you are starting this fall with us, you can file your FAFSA now. And once you're admitted, within a couple weeks after that, as long as we have your social security number on file and things like that, and you filed your FAFSA, then we will send you out your financial aid award letter. And that's when we go ahead and we can help with the cost payment analysis that Carrie spoke about. All right, so let's get in the nitty gritty. I'm going to talk about a few different things here today, some more in detail than others. But I wanted to let you know just a brief overview of all the programs and financial aid that's available for our graduate students. So I'll talk more about loans on another screen and detail. Departmental scholarships. Carrie, do you want to talk a little bit about that and kind of how that works there?
Yeah, so the departments have departmental scholarships, and for CSD, you're going to apply for that Good Band Fellowship through your CSD CAS application. There is a opportunity to complete that in there. Same for OT. There is an opportunity for you to take a look at those departmental scholarships. And nursing also has a departmental scholarship. So they're going to be reviewing your entire application. And if there's an interview, that will be taken into consideration as well. And those departmental scholarships will be typically awarded at the time of admission. However, if you don't get a scholarship at the time of admission, it doesn't mean that you won't get one. It just means that you didn't get one right away. Because we do have X number of scholarships per department. And if somebody has been offered that scholarship as part of their admission and they choose not to come here, we will reallocate those resources to other students. And so just so you know that not to be discouraged if you didn't get one right away, because there is still a potential for you to get one. Additionally, if you are going to be getting one of our grants that we're going to be touching base with in a little bit, you can't double dip those. And so if you are receiving a grant or a GA position, you will forego the scholarship opportunity. You can still get the graduate grant, which is what Bill was talking about with the FAFSA submission, but you would have to choose which of those other options that you would want. So there, like I said, there are usually a few opportunities per department, and it will be based on your overall application and or interview if that's required.
And Carrie, that's the case too with the GA positions for CSD and MOT too, correct?
Correct. The GA positions will both have opportunities to check off if you're interested in that in the CAS applications, and so you'll check off on those. Those for CSD are typically offered at the time of admission. For the OT program, they're not always offered at the time of admission just because we're not admitting all at the same time. So if you haven't gotten selected for that GA position yet, just know that that is still pending with the program director review. Nursing, unfortunately, does not have a GA position. There are two for each of the CSD and OT programs.
Thank you. And then we have two grant opportunities out there. Actually, it's like one grant opportunity, one scholarship, the Exemples and the Rise. Carrie, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, so both of these are amazing, amazing opportunities. They are grants that are going to allow students from multiple areas to work together in a subcohort. So we take, for the examples, 3 students from CSD, 3 students from OT, and 3 students from education. And with the agreement of this grant, you are going to commit to working about 50% of your caseload after you graduate towards students who are in special needs. So typically those students would be having an IEP, an individualized education plan while in school. It doesn't mean you have to work in a school because you could be seeing them in an outpatient clinic. So they just have to be part of your caseload. But the opportunity with that Exemples grant is that you are bilingual. So that is the one requirement for that grant. It will give you about half of your tuition. So you're going to commit 2 years for every year you get half of your tuition. So 4 years total to working with those students. Again, it doesn't have to be in an education setting. It just has to be part of your course load. RISE is going to work very similarly to that, but the difference is you don't have to be bilingual. It is going to pay a little bit more, I believe. We literally just got the grant and it just got finalized, and so we're still pulling all the materials. But it will pay at minimum half of your tuition again. Again, you're going to be working with those students who have that individualized education plan. It doesn't have to be in a school. It could be in any setting. But again, they just need to be part of your caseload, but you don't need to be bilingual. And there is a stipend that comes along with that as well. There is going to be an Exemples webinar next Monday and a RISE webinar next Wednesday. And if you can attend those, I encourage you to do so because you can get a lot of the details. They are separate applications outside of your CAS application. So you'll have to apply for both of those outside of the CAS application. With RISE, we're going to be taking 4 students from CSD and 3 students from OT in this coming term. Nurses, unfortunately, once again, this opportunity isn't available to you because that's just the way that the grant works. But for the OT and the CSD students, I would strongly encourage you attending the sessions and learning more about those opportunities.
Thanks, Carrie. We also have some opportunities for students who maybe completed their undergraduate here at Elmhurst University. We offer those students their first course for free in their program. And then we also have a Graduate Studies Legacy Scholarship. So if you had any family members, close family members like grandparents, parents, brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts, we can award you a Graduate Studies Legacy Scholarship. However, if you also want here too for your undergrad, I can't give you both. It's one or the other.
But those are stackable on top of the other opportunities.
Correct. Okay, so to apply for financial aid, it's really no different than what you've done where you go, I should say where you go when you're doing your undergrad degree. So you're going to go to studentaid.gov and you're going to start the application there. The one thing that you need to do is you need to make sure that you're applying as a graduate or professional student because that makes sure that we receive the right information there. A lot of times I get asked questions. So do I need to put my parents' information in on it? No. As a graduate student, you are only putting your financial information in there. So it should be a quicker process than it would typically take. Takes about 30 minutes or so to apply. You need to do it once a year. So if you are looking to start this year, you would want to, it's actually open already. It opened up on October 1st on time this year. So you can complete that application for financial aid now. And you could do that now even before you're fully admitted to the program here at Elmhurst. And you can also put not only Elmhurst on there, which of course we only want you to put Elmhurst on there, but you could put other schools on that application as well too. So those schools get that information. If you want to, I did jot I put the Elmhurst code in there. You can jot it down. Otherwise, you can search for it as well. And when you're filing your FAFSA, I always recommend that you have some of your financial information with you because they're going to be asking you those questions as you go through the FAFSA. And as far as your tax information, typically that will be pulled directly from the IRS website there. But if you want to have a printout with you just in case, that's not a bad idea. Um, and then sometimes there is two FAFSA enrollments out there. You want to make sure that you're enrolling for the 26-27 academic year. And then tuition rates will vary by program. And we do have all of those listed out on our website right now for this upcoming academic year. All right, so grants. First, right off the bat, there is no Pell Grant available for graduate students, or if you live in Illinois, you may be familiar with something called a MAP grant. That is not available either. So really, there's no federal or state grants for graduate school. However, we do have some money that we award from our own funds here at Elmhurst University. We call it our graduate grant, and that is available for students who demonstrate need. So what we do is we take a look at your financial aid results, and we get something that's called an SAI, Student Aid Index. It used to be called EFC, or Estimated Financial Contribution. Based on that number, we can determine if you're eligible for this specific graduate grant. Some students receive $2,000 per year. Some students receive $1,000, and some students may not receive this grant because they don't demonstrate the need. But this is something you don't have to do separate or anything like that. We determine this based on the FAFSA, and then we apply it automatically to your account there. Okay. The next form of aid that you would receive when you filed your FAFSA would be the graduate student loan, or sometimes referred to as direct unsubsidized loan. The primary source of aid at the graduate level is going to be loans. So you're going to want to use this if you're looking to help finance some of the cost here for the program. The max amount that you can get for this particular loan is $20,500 per year. And when we award it for a student in the year, we break it up by semester. So remember, we bill in the fall and we bill in the spring. So the financial aid, the loan and the grant are then split into those terms as well too. So you'd receive 10,250 in the fall and another 10,250 in the spring. For your second year, you'd want to apply for the FAFSA again, so you'd be able to receive your second amount of loans for that second year, so another 20,500. The graduate loans are unsubsidized. So what that means is that interest does accrue while you're enrolled in school. Now, you're not expected to make payments on those loans while you're in school, but do know that interest is accruing on what you're borrowing out there. So currently right now, for students who have started this past fall of 25, their interest rate is 7.94%. So they took out the 20,500. Their interest is accruing on that 20,500. I apologize. I should say the 20,500 is split, but we only award it by the semester there. So their interest for the 10,250 is accruing right now. And then once they start in their spring semester, then the full 20,500. So it's all based on when you actually like use that particular loan, which is helpful. Another thing to note is there is no credit check required for this loan, which is a nice thing. Again, you have to complete the FAFSA to receive it. And then there's a couple additional steps as well to actually have it go into your account. You need to complete a master promissory note and loan entrance counseling. That is done at studentaid.gov as well too. And then in addition to that, you would then actually accept the loan here at Elmhurst University through our student portal, my.elmhurst.edu. We use a system called self-service to go ahead and do that. So for everyone who's starting the program fall of 26, your interest rate is going to be different than this one. So do know that it changes every year. So you can have one interest rate of a certain amount for your first year, and then your second year, your loans will have a different interest rate there. Okay, so I don't know if any of you have already looked at tuition. I wish it was only 20,500 and then we'd be golden. But unfortunately, that's not the case in these programs here. They have a little bit of a higher cost. So the other option that you want to do if you need extra help above and beyond the 20,500 is you can apply for a private or alternative loan. These are offered by a number of different private lenders out there to help assist with your educational expenses that were not covered by your other financial aid. And if you need additional funds for any other type of living expenses and things like that, you can also utilize the loans for that too. There's something called a cost of attendance. So what cost of attendance includes is your tuition, kind of your hard tuition that's on there, and then your indirect costs. I'm sorry, tuition is your direct cost. So your indirect cost would be housing, transportation, things like that. So students can borrow above and beyond their direct cost up to their cost of attendance to help with your living expenses there. You can choose any lender that you like. We do here at Elmhurst University offer a search engine to assist students there. And I'm actually going to go ahead and put that in the chat here so you guys can take a look. This site that I'm directing you to has a bunch of information that we talked about here in this presentation. But if you go under alternative loans, you'll see a link to what we call Elm Select that will provide you some loan companies out there that do work with Elmhurst. Now, you don't have to use those. You can use anyone that you like, but we just wanted to help you with the starting point there. Many times for these private loans, a credit check may be required, and you may need a co-signer as well too. And then interest rates will vary by lender too. A nice thing about that Elm Select search engine that we have there, if you go in there, it will talk with you about, it will give you some reference of what the interest rate is for that. And sometimes there is things such as a loan origination fee. So that can mean that they'll take a small chunk out of your loan prior to posting on there. So you'll see that in there as well too. The other option that we have for students, and actually you can utilize this with your other financial aid, opportunities is we do offer payment plans. So as I mentioned before, our tuition is billed on a semester basis, and you could break up that semester bill into 5 monthly installments. There is no cost to enroll in that plan as long as you do a couple things. One, make sure that you're not late with your payments there. They're usually due on the 15th of each month, and you can set up an auto pay plan so it comes out automatically from your account, and then you don't have to worry about a late fee. Another thing is don't use a credit card because there is a processing charge for that credit card. We don't take any of that money. That is goes directly to our servicers for the credit cards there. So the way to avoid that is to set up what's called the ACH um, payment system in there. So what you do is you just take your checking account, take a look at it, put your account number in there and your routing number, and then it goes out automatically, and then you can avoid a fee there. The other option that we have is our tuition reimbursement program. Sometimes we do have students whose employers will assist with their tuition. So if you do work for an employer that offers that, we would just need to have a letter from your employer stating that you're eligible and send that over to Student Financial Services, and we'll get that applied to your account. What happens with that is then your tuition is deferred, your tuition cost is deferred until 6 weeks after the end of the semester there. So it gives you some time to get that money from your employer. There's a cost of $25 per term that you're using that payment plan. All right, I wanted to give you guys an example of how tuition works and then how financial aid works too. So we're going to look at Victor. He's all ready to go, ready to party and start his school there. He's looking to get into the CSD program, and he knows that his tuition and fee cost for the fall without financial aid is 18,300. So let's see how that works with his financial aid. Okay, so he filed his FAFSA, and we determined that he needed the he was able to get the graduate grant of $1,000. He of course already placed his tuition deposit down on his account, and he was also offered a loan for the unsubsidized loan of 10,250. And then looking at that, he also applied for a private loan too, but he only wanted to cover his full tuition costs. He didn't apply for anything extra over and above his costs there for the fall. So his total tuition and fees was 18,300, and with his financial aid package, he does not have to do a payment plan, so he does not have anything to pay for that fall semester. And then for the spring semester, his aid would look exactly the same here, and his tuition and fees would also look exactly the same for the spring semester as well too. And another thing to note too is our tuition is locked for 2 years. So when you start your program, your tuition will be the same amount in the second year for the graduate program, which is different from our undergraduate programs. They do not have a locked tuition thing, but we do have those on our graduate full-time programs there. All right, so that is it. We have some numbers here that you'll want to keep handy, but on the next screen, the numbers are even more handy. So Carrie's information is in there. If you have any questions regarding the application process, please reach out to her. If you have any questions regarding financial aid, things like that, you can reach out to me. And then we do have a couple other names here I'd like to talk about. We have Carrie Ostergaard. She is our admissions counselor for many of our education programs, our executive coaching, our MBA program, and our IO program. And then we have Jim Faring, who is assistant director for graduate admission, and he works with students in our computer information technology program, our project management program, supply chain, and data science. All right, I know there's questions, and we're here to help. Don't be shy to unmute yourself, or you can put it into the chat too.
It's a lot of information to
I
process.
know.
And if you think of something after the fact, you can always reach out to myself or Bill at any time.
Yeah, if you'd like to have a private email, that's fine. Yep. But
Yeah,
if you
so
have
I
a
had a
question
question real
that,
quick.
yeah, go ahead.
I'm applying for the Masters of Occupational Therapy program, and so I'm like a parent. I have like a toddler at home, and so I'll
Mhm.
be juggling parenting as well as like doing the occupational therapy program. Are there any sort of like advice or things you should point towards for a parent as far as like figuring out like financial aid and different things like that?
Good question. Unfortunately, even if you have dependents and things like that, you wouldn't receive any additional financial aid to help with that.
Hmm.
Um, but you could apply for that private loan if you needed some extra funds to help with, babysitting, things like that. You can go up to that cost of attendance.
Okay, gotcha, gotcha. Thank you so much.
Yep. Anyone else? Don't be shy.
And don't forget, if you haven't done so, to definitely check out our Examples and Rise webinars that are going to be next week as another opportunity to learn more about those details of those two grants.
Yeah.
If you've already submitted your FAFSA, make sure that you've got your Social Security number linked in our system so that we can apply it to your account to make sure that you're eligible for that graduate grant, which could be a value of $1,000 to $2,000 renewable yearly when you complete your FAFSA the second year. So it's just completely based on that FAFSA submission. And if you think that you've got everything set up and you want me to check for you, I can always check in the system to make sure that that's been applied also.
Yeah. And Carrie, if I remember right, an email is sent directly to each student regarding how to submit their social security number securely to us, correct?
Yes, there is with a secure link. Yep,
Good.
absolutely.
Actually, one last question.
Yeah.
Would y'all have any sort of resource as far as like finding scholarships relevant to whatever grad program people are applying to?
Yeah, there is on our website, we do have links to some external scholarships out there. You could take a look at that. Some ones I just know right off the top of my head are FastWeb, which you may have heard before. But those are, you'll see some other ones too on that link that I put into the chat for additional scholarship opportunities.
All right, cool. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yep. Oh, and Sarah did put into the chat how to RSVP for those two webinars that Carrie spoke about regarding our Rise and Examples scholarship. And I do see a question regarding grad assistantships for international students. So if I recall, Carrie, I believe the CSD, what is that our Nursing Master's Entry program, international students can do, and is it OT as well, or
They can all international students can apply to all three programs.
all three?
MEMP does not have the GA positions.
Gotcha. So yes, as international, you could apply. Um, and then health insurance. We do not offer health insurance to domestic students, but international students are required to receive health insurance through Elmhurst. Did I miss any? I don't think I did. I don't see any other chats now. All right. Nothing else. We're going to go ahead and end the presentation today, but I want to thank you so much for coming and spend your time with us. And if anything comes up later regarding any questions or concerns, feel free to reach out. We are happy to help.